Hey folks, Bernakevitch here with All Points Design. That's allpointsdesign.ca. Today I'm going to be answering a question on the Oregon State University's permaculture design course. It's a course that's run 3 times a year, spring, summer, and fall. Fall, winter, and spring. No summer. We're all doing stuff in the summer. And there was a question that was brought up by a student that was referred to me by one of the other instructors, Marisha Arbach. Incredible grower, incredible designer. If you are in the Portland area, definitely check her out if you are in need. And basically it's from a student who's asking a little bit about fire. And so I wanted to put this together not only for her, but also for anybody else that feels like there may be some value in going through this. I recently went through a really interesting process of developing a documentary called Facing Fire, Building Resiliency to Wildfire to answer 3 main questions. How do we get to our current situation with wildfire? Where are we now and what can we do about it? And regenerative land design, holistic land design, ecological land design with the tools of keyline and permaculture and agroforestry and a number of other tools, micro integration, really provides us with a lot of answers. And I'm just going to simplify this. So there is such a thing called the fire triangle. And that fire triangle has 3 points. It has fuel, usually dry, but not always. It has fuel, it has some type of ignition source, and then it has oxygen. It has that ability to inflame fire. So whenever we come into a fire-prone situation, and most of North America is in that situation, this is a land of fire. It's made to burn. The indigenous people of North America learned that and worked with that cycle, just as we've learned to work with the cycle of daylight and nighttime. Wake up, we work within the daytime, we sleep in the nighttime. We call that an evolutionary trait. And yet we tend to think when it comes to fire that we shouldn't work with fire as a cycle. So indigenous folks have done that really well, and we need to really explore and partner and honor their knowledge in this regard. So I'm just going to pull up the question. And so this is Jennifer Hoof. So one of the things was Marisha suggesting that if you had high organic content in the soil, you're mitigating risk of fire. Am I reading that right? And yeah, you are to a certain extent. The cool thing about having a high amount of organic matter in your soil is that it increases the amount of surface area. Organic matter and organics, really carbon in all of its different shapes and sizes, has a lot of surface area. And with a lot of surface area, there's a lot of water tension. So water tension or capillary reaction is made up of 2 forces. It's made up of adhesion. So when water is clinging to something, adhesion, it's adding itself to it, or cohesion, when water is clinging to itself, like a water droplet that's dropped off of a pouring vessel. You have like little globes. So those together create capillary reaction, and capillary reaction creates water tension, and water tension thus creates the ability for water to hold on to surface area. And organic matter has a lot of surface area. So I forget the stat, but I think it's 1% of organic matter equals something in the range of 60,000 gallons of water potential to be retained per acre. So the more you increase your organic matter, the more you can retain water. And it is the cheapest and easiest way to increase water retention in a landscape. Tanks above ground are somewhere between $1 to $2 a liter installed. Below ground, they can be around that or a little bit lower, especially if you're using excavation equipment intelligently. So really, when we're talking about organic matter, Marisha's got absolutely the right conversation. It is absolutely a good thing to do. Getting back down to her second question, she's got a bunch of different questions here. But her second question here, I'm gathering that my greatest threats for fire are my neighbors if they did barbecues or the like. Electric is in the ground. I have a water well for the water utility next to me. So maybe they have a generator machinery that could spark a fire, but my biggest risk neighbors are probably the ones with the cleared out grass area to the west of me, and they're uphill from me. So I'm counting on moist land to protect me as well as being downhill from them, and thus don't really have much of a fire sector to worry about, question mark. So I don't know specifically where or what Jennifer's situation is, but we are gonna pull up this little photo she put down just to take a look. Oh yeah, she did, great. Okay. So if the teaching forest is, I'm guessing that's it. Yeah, because she says neighbor high point, yeah. So as I take a look at this, you can take a look at the contour lines, and basically we've got low numbers down here and high numbers up here. So we have low ground and high ground. And again, if this is the teaching forest, it looks like she's got a bit of a valley or a draw here, bit of a ridge here, bit of a ridge here. You can even do some drawing just to make that very clear. And when we draw and we do ridge lines, we tend to do ridge lines in red. Oh, there we go, we get a draw, nice. So ridge lines in red, and then valleys in blue. Really denoting that valleys are wet and ridges are dry. And I would say there's actually probably a little ridge right here. So yeah, so that gives us a sense of generally the topography, and we could take that further into land units, which is basically taking the watershed. So when we take a look at this ridge and this valley, we end up getting a land unit, which commonly, if you're working with the Agrarian's color scheme, which I'd use, you have a land unit like this, because that's a water divide. The water will fall on this side or that side. So we have another land unit here. We have potentially a land unit here. Now this always has to be ground truth. You always have to be on the ground to really understand what you're seeing here. And this may be 1 or 2 or 3, but that's what we would take a look at. So basically we've got 3 areas, which is great because it gives us a focus of different areas to look at. So her question was really my only worry about, I don't actually know, hold up a sec. I don't even know if you guys can see what I'm drawing there. Let me just share instead my whole desktop. I think then we might be able to see what's going on. Oh yeah, cool. All right, let's do this again. So when we take a look at this little map, sorry about that, folks. We've got a ridge line here, basically, and then we've got a ridge line somewhere about here. Then we've got a valley in the center. Now, again, you'd have to go in and ground truth this to really understand, but this creates land units in the parlance of the incredible PA Yeomans. And so basically when we get, oh, this is weird. We're not doing that. Let's just undo that. I thought there might have been like a polygon we could create, but no, I'll just draw it freehand. So basically we've got these land units here. And it's great because this is where water divides, so we know what we're working in. And normally when I do a design, I'm taking a look at these land units and I'm calculating off of these land units because this is what we have to work with, right? So there we go, generally. So her question was, and I'm just going to switch back here to, there we go. Oh, and that's still on there. We'll just leave it there for a second. So I'm counting on moist lands to protect me as well as being downhill from them. Thus don't really have much of a fire sector to worry about. So I would say, because there's quite a bit of forest below her, I don't know where she is. I don't know where Snohomish County is, but generally in North America, we do have quite a bit of fire risk, unless you're in the humid areas, which tends to be a bit of the eastern area of the United States, but they still get some fire. And so there definitely is a possibility of fire coming up from the lower area. This is indeed the area that we're talking about. And there's definitely fire risk on all sides. So I would say, Jennifer, you have fire risk on all around you. What do you do about that? So again, that fire triangle is really important. When you take a look at that fire triangle, you want to take a look at those 3 areas. You want to take a look at taking a look at fuel. You want to take a look at reducing ignition, ignite. We'll just call it ignite because it's less words. And then we want to take a look at O2. So really, if I was taking a look at this and taking a look at the fire risk from below ground, or from below downslope, I would be taking a look at potentially looking at increasing the amount of moisture retention on the lower slope here in some way, shape, or form. Could be with earthworks, could be with selecting with tree species, could be with pruning and management. I'd be taking a look at increasing the canopy height, so pruning up as high as we can reach with a pole saw, so that way there's quite a bit of gap between what could become a ground fire that could then ignite up ladder fuels and get up into the crown itself. And I might even take a look at creating a bit of a break and spacing out the trees here, maybe doing some selective harvesting. To the east, if this is a north facing, I don't see a compass, but it looks like this is probably to the east. We've got a road here, so I might help that by removing some of that. To the south, we've got a good break. The neighbor's got some breaks. To the west, we've got good breaks in this area. And then we've got forest again. So I would take a look at probably increasing moisture, decreasing fuel, pulling up that canopy height, selectively taking out trees, using them on site, because we always want to use that resource on site. And also starting to develop, and this can't be understated, overstated, pardon me, developing a community fire response plan and starting to realize that most fires are well served when the community knows what to do when fire comes. So really reaching out to the rest of the individuals that you are working with, speaking to them, interacting with them, and starting to build those resources. So in the States, defensible space is a really great resource. In Canada, Fire Smart is a great resource. I created a film called Facing Fire, Building Resiliency to Wildfire, which is a great resource. You can get to it at facingfirefilm.com. And then a podcast I'm just about to put out called Land and Life with Javan. You can reach that on allpointsdesign.ca/podcast. I'll be doing a Facing Fire series as well as on my YouTube channel, which is my name, and my company name, All Points Design, going into that as well. So hopefully that helps. I hope you continue on with your great work in the course. For anybody watching this and they're thinking, I really want to learn about this stuff, the Oregon State University Permaculture Design course is a great way to do it. Take a look at the promo code below. I think you'll appreciate the course. It's relatively inexpensive, great student to teacher ratio, and you go through your site step by step, 20 or 19, something like that, different assignments. You get feedback from instructors who've been at this work for decades, and I think you'd enjoy it. Thanks so much for watching. As usual, be fruitful and mulch apply. Thanks.